Have you ever woken up at exactly 3 a.m. for no apparent reason? No alarm, no noise, just your eyes opening in complete darkness, and you know instinctively that it's 3 o'clock. It's not coincidence, it's not chance. Carl Jung discovered something that will completely change your perception about these nocturnal awakenings. What happens at 3 a.m. isn't just a sleep interruption, it's an urgent call from your unconscious. It's at this specific moment that your psyche desperately tries to communicate with you, revealing deep truths that your conscious mind refuses to see during the day. Jung identified that at 3 a.m., the most mysterious phenomenon in human psychology occurs. The shadow portal opens. At this exact moment, your unconscious projects crucial messages about unresolved traumas, unrealized potentials, and rejected aspects of your personality. What you're about to discover will revolutionize your understanding about yourself and explain why your soul insists on waking you up at this specific time. The shadow portal. Why everything changes at 3 a.m. 3 in the morning holds secrets that most people will never understand. This isn't just another hour on the clock. It's when your deepest self breaks through the barriers you've built during waking hours. Jung called this the shadow portal because it's exactly when your hidden aspects demand attention. Your body naturally enters its deepest sleep cycles between 2 and 4 in the morning. But when you wake at 3, something else is happening. Your unconscious mind has been working all night, processing emotions, memories, and parts of yourself that you push away during daylight hours. At 3 a.m., these suppressed elements become so powerful they literally pull you from sleep. Think about what 3 represents in human psychology. It's the number of completion, of trinity, of balance between opposing forces. When you wake at this hour, your psyche is trying to create balance between your conscious self and everything you've rejected about who you are. This rejection creates what Jung called the shadow, all the parts of yourself you don't want to acknowledge. During the day, your rational mind stays busy. You work, you socialize, you distract yourself with endless activities. But at 3 in the morning, there are no distractions, no phone calls, no obligations, no noise from the outside world. Your shadow uses this silence to emerge, bringing with it all the feelings, thoughts, and aspects of yourself you've been avoiding. The portal opens because your defenses are down. Sleep makes you vulnerable, and 3 a.m. is when that vulnerability peaks. Your unconscious knows this is its only chance to communicate without interference from your logical, controlling mind. It's like having a conversation with someone who finally stops talking long enough to listen. Many people feel fear when they wake at 3. The darkness seems heavier, thoughts feel more intense, and worries multiply in the silence. But Jung understood this fear differently. He saw it as your psyche's way of showing you what needs attention. The very things that scare you at 3 a.m. are often the keys to your personal growth and healing. Your shadow doesn't just contain negative aspects. It also holds your unrealized potential, your creative gifts, and parts of your personality that you've suppressed because they didn't fit with how others expected you to be. When you wake at 3, you're not just confronting your fears, you're also meeting your unlived possibilities. The portal works both ways. While your shadow rises to consciousness, your conscious mind also descends deeper into the unconscious realm. This creates a unique meeting point where transformation becomes possible. It's like standing at the crossroads between 2 worlds, able to see both your surface self and your hidden depths. Jung noticed that people who paid attention to their 3 a.m. awakenings often experienced significant life changes. They began making different choices, pursuing forgotten dreams, or finally addressing issues they'd been avoiding. The portal doesn't just show you your shadow, it gives you the opportunity to integrate it into your whole self. This integration is what Jung called individuation, the process of becoming who you truly are instead of who you think you should be. 3. AM awakenings are invitations to this process. Your unconscious is essentially saying, it's time to stop hiding from yourself. It's time to become whole. The reason everything changes at 3 isn't because the hour itself has magical properties. It changes because you change. You become more honest with yourself, more willing to face uncomfortable truths, more open to aspects of your personality you've kept locked away. The portal opens not in the external world, but in your internal landscape. When you understand this, 3 a.m. transforms from an annoyance into an opportunity. Instead of lying there feeling frustrated about lost sleep, you can recognize these moments as chances for deep self-discovery. Your shadow isn't trying to torment you. It's trying to complete you. The portal reveals that your psyche operates on a different schedule than your conscious mind. While you're focused on daily tasks and surface concerns, your unconscious is working on much deeper projects, healing old wounds, integrating rejected parts, and guiding you toward your authentic self. 3 a.m. is when these two schedules intersect, creating a brief window where profound insight becomes possible. Your unconscious is screaming the signs you ignore. Every time you wake at 3 in the morning, your unconscious mind is sending you urgent messages. But most people miss these signals completely because they don't know how to listen. Your psyche has been trying to get your attention for months, maybe years, using methods you've learned to dismiss as coincidence or stress. The screaming isn't literal, it's symbolic. Your unconscious communicates through feelings, sensations, images, and patterns that your rational mind often ignores. When you consistently wake at the same time, feel sudden anxiety for no clear reason, or experience the same troubling thoughts night after night, your unconscious is raising its voice. Jung discovered that the unconscious never stops working. While you're awake, it observes everything you do, feel, and think. It notices patterns you miss, remembers details you forget, and sees connections you overlook. When something important needs your attention, it starts sending signals. If you ignore the whispers, it gets louder. If you ignore the loud calls, it starts screaming. 3 a.m. awakenings are often the screaming phase. Your unconscious has tried gentler methods. Maybe you felt restless during the day, had strange dreams, or noticed recurring thoughts. But if you kept pushing these signals aside, your psyche escalates to more dramatic measures. Waking you from deep sleep is its way of saying, you can't ignore this anymore. The signs you ignore during the day become impossible to miss at 3 in the morning. That persistent feeling that something is wrong in your relationship, the nagging sense that you're in the wrong career, the uncomfortable awareness that you're not living authentically. These insights often surface most clearly in the early morning hours when your defenses are down. Your body also becomes part of this unconscious communication system. You might wake with your heart racing, feel tension in your shoulders, or experience that familiar knot in your stomach. These physical sensations aren't random. They're your unconscious mind's way of getting your attention when words and thoughts aren't enough. Many people try to silence these signals with sleeping pills, alcohol, or by keeping themselves so busy they fall into bed exhausted. But the unconscious is patient and persistent. If you block one communication channel, it finds another. If you numb the emotional signals, it creates physical ones. If you ignore the gentle nudges, it creates crisis situations that force you to pay attention. The emotions you feel at 3 a.m. are often the ones you've been suppressing during the day. Anger you couldn't express, sadness you didn't have time to process, fear you didn't want to acknowledge. All of these feelings accumulate in your unconscious until they demand release. 3 a.m. becomes their outlet because it's the only time your conscious mind isn't actively pushing them away. Jung emphasized that these suppressed emotions don't disappear just because you ignore them. They gather strength in the darkness of your unconscious, growing more powerful and more urgent over time. When they finally break through during early morning hours, they often feel overwhelming because you're experiencing days, weeks, or even years of accumulated feeling all at once. Your unconscious also screams about missed opportunities and unlived parts of yourself. Maybe you gave up music to pursue a practical career, or you suppressed your creative side to fit in with others. These abandoned aspects of yourself don't just fade away, they remain active in your unconscious, periodically surfacing to remind you of what you've lost. The 3 a.m. screaming often intensifies during major life transitions. When you're facing important decisions, dealing with loss, or going through significant changes, your unconscious becomes more active. It knows these are crucial moments when the course of your life could shift, so it works harder to make sure you're hearing its guidance. Recognition is the first step toward healing these urgent communications. Instead of viewing 3 a.m. awakenings as problems to solve, you can begin seeing them as important messages to decode. Your unconscious isn't trying to torment you. It's trying to save you from living a life that isn't truly yours. The screaming will continue until you start listening. But once you begin paying attention to these signals, acknowledging the feelings, and addressing the issues your unconscious keeps highlighting, the urgent quality of these communications often softens. Your psyche doesn't need to scream when it knows you're finally hearing what it has to say. By the way, if you're curious to go even deeper and integrate your shadows and light, check out the Sim Method ebook. It's a concise guide that can help you unlock your inner power in just 5 minutes a day. The link is in the first pinned comment below. The Devil's Hour or Healing Time. Jung explains the mystery. Throughout history, 3 in the morning has carried a dark reputation. Many cultures call it the Devil's Hour, believing evil forces are strongest when the night is darkest and most people are asleep. But Jung saw something completely different in this mysterious time. He understood that what people interpreted as evil was actually their own rejected shadow trying to emerge for healing. The association with evil comes from centuries of misunderstanding about human psychology. When people woke at 3, feeling afraid, anxious, or confronted by disturbing thoughts, they naturally assumed these experiences came from outside forces. It was easier to blame supernatural entities than to recognize these dark feelings as parts of themselves they had been denying. Jung's revolutionary insight was that there is no devil's hour, only healing hour disguised as something frightening. What feels scary at 3 in the morning is usually your psyche bringing suppressed material to the surface where it can finally be processed and integrated. The darkness you encounter isn't external evil, but internal material that needs your attention. Your unconscious chooses 3 a.m. for this healing work because your conscious defenses are at their weakest. During the day, your rational mind works overtime to maintain control, pushing uncomfortable feelings and thoughts back into the shadows. But at 3 in the morning, your psyche can bypass these defenses and begin the healing process your conscious mind has been preventing. The fear people feel during these awakenings often comes from encountering parts of themselves they don't recognize. Maybe you wake feeling angry without knowing why, or you're suddenly overwhelmed by sadness about something you thought you had processed. These aren't signs of spiritual attack. They're signs that your psyche is ready to heal old wounds you've been carrying. Jung noticed that people who embrace these 3 a.m. experiences, instead of fighting them, often went through profound healing transformations. They learned to see their early morning awakenings as opportunities for deep psychological work rather than inconvenient interruptions to their sleep. This shift in perspective changed everything about how they experienced these moments. The healing that happens at 3 isn't always comfortable. Sometimes you'll wake confronted by memories you've tried to forget, feelings you've tried to numb, or truths about yourself you've tried to avoid. But Jung understood that true healing requires facing these difficult aspects of your experience. You can't heal what you refuse to acknowledge. Your unconscious uses the quiet darkness of 3 a.m. to create a safe space for this healing work. There are no external demands on your attention, no social roles to maintain, no masks to wear. In this solitude, you can encounter your authentic self, including the parts you've been taught to reject or fear. The mystery deepens because 3 a.m. healing often doesn't follow logical patterns. You might wake thinking about a childhood event you haven't remembered in years, or suddenly understand something about a current relationship that had been confusing you. Your unconscious connects dots in ways your rational mind can't, creating insights that seem to come from nowhere. Many people report that their most important life realizations have come during 3 a.m. awakenings. They've suddenly understood why certain relationships weren't working, gained clarity about career changes they needed to make, or found forgiveness for themselves or others. These breakthrough moments happen because your unconscious can finally communicate without interference from your everyday thinking patterns. The healing aspect becomes clearer when you track these experiences over time. People who pay attention to their 3 a.m. awakenings often notice patterns, certain themes that keep appearing, specific emotions that regularly surface, or recurring insights about particular areas of their lives. These patterns reveal where healing is most needed. Jung emphasized that this healing process requires active participation. Simply waking at 3 isn't enough. You need to engage with whatever emerges. This might mean sitting with difficult feelings instead of trying to make them go away, writing down insights that come to you, or simply staying present with whatever your unconscious is trying to show you. The transformation from devil's hour to healing time happens when you change your relationship with these experiences. Instead of seeing them as problems to solve or symptoms to eliminate, you begin recognizing them as gifts from your deeper self. Your unconscious isn't trying to disturb your sleep. It's trying to heal your life. This healing often extends beyond the individual. Jung found that people who did their 3 a.m. healing work became more authentic in their relationships, more creative in their work, and more compassionate toward others. By healing their own internal divisions, they contributed to healing in the world around them. The mystery remains because consciousness and unconscious operate by different rules. What seems random or disturbing to your logical mind often makes perfect sense to your deeper psyche. Learning to trust this process, even when you don't understand it, is essential for accessing the healing that 3 a.m. offers. Interrupted dreams, lost messages from your soul. When you wake at 3 in the morning, you're usually pulling yourself out of the deepest part of your sleep cycle, the time when your most significant dreams occur. These interruptions aren't accidents. Your unconscious mind is making a choice between letting you continue dreaming and waking you up to process something immediately. Understanding what gets lost in these moments reveals crucial information about your inner world. Dreams are your soul's native language. While your conscious mind thinks in words and logic, your soul communicates through symbols, emotions, and narrative experiences that unfold in your sleep. When you wake at 3, you're interrupting a conversation your soul was having with itself, a conversation that might contain exactly the guidance you need for your waking life. Jung discovered that the dreams you almost remember, the ones that slip away as you wake, often carry the most important messages. Your unconscious brings you to the edge of consciousness precisely because it wants you to remember something crucial. But the transition from dream state to waking awareness is delicate, and most people lose these messages in the shift between worlds. The interrupted dream often continues playing in your unconscious even after you wake. This is why you might lie in bed feeling like something important just happened, but unable to recall what it was. Your soul is still processing the dream material, trying to bridge the gap between unconscious insight and conscious understanding. Many 3 a.m. awakenings happen at moments when your dream was reaching a crucial point. Maybe you were about to understand something important about a relationship, receive guidance about a difficult decision, or encounter a part of yourself you needed to meet. The awakening interrupts this process, leaving you with fragments of meaning that feel significant but incomplete. Your soul uses dreams to work through emotional material that your conscious mind can't handle during waking hours. These dreams often involve people from your past, symbolic representations of current conflicts, or scenarios that allow you to experience different aspects of yourself. When these dreams get interrupted, the emotional processing they were facilitating remains unfinished. The lost messages aren't really lost, they're just waiting in your unconscious for another opportunity to surface. Jung found that interrupted dream themes often repeat in different forms until the message gets through. Your soul is persistent in its attempts to communicate, finding new ways to deliver the same essential insights until you finally receive them. Some people wake at 3 because their dreams become so intense that their conscious mind can't tolerate remaining asleep. These might be dreams about childhood experiences you've never fully processed, relationships that ended without closure, or aspects of yourself you've been avoiding. Your psyche brings you to consciousness because the dream material is too important to remain buried in sleep. The emotional residue from interrupted dreams often lingers throughout the following day. You might feel inexplicably sad, anxious, or excited without knowing why. These feelings are echoes of the dream work your soul was doing before you woke up. Learning to recognize and honor these emotional states can help you recover some of the lost dream wisdom. Your soul sometimes interrupts dreams to make sure you remember them. The most important messages often come through dreams that wake you up because your unconscious knows you need to consciously process the information. These awakening dreams are gifts, your soul's way of making sure crucial insights don't remain buried in sleep. The timing of 3 a.m. interruptions often corresponds with the dream content. You might wake just as your dream self was about to make an important choice, confront a fear, or receive some kind of revelation. Your unconscious brings you to consciousness at these pivotal moments because it wants your waking mind to participate in whatever transformation the dream was facilitating. Jung encouraged people to develop relationships with their interrupted dreams. This might involve lying quietly after waking to see if any dream fragments return, writing down whatever you can remember even if it seems incomplete, or simply acknowledging that important work was happening in your sleep even if you can't recall the details. The messages your soul sends through dreams often address issues your conscious mind has been avoiding. Maybe you've been ignoring problems in your relationship, postponing important decisions, or suppressing emotions you don't want to feel. Your soul uses dream time to work on these neglected areas, and the interruptions at 3 a.m. are often signals that this work has reached a critical point. Recovery of lost dream messages sometimes happens gradually. Details might return to you throughout the day, triggered by seemingly unrelated events or conversations. Your soul continues trying to deliver its guidance through whatever channels remain open, weaving dream insights into your waking experience through synchronicities and sudden realizations. The interrupted dreams of 3 a.m. awakenings often carry healing potential for your entire life. These aren't just random neural firings during sleep. They're purposeful communications from the deepest parts of yourself. Learning to value and work with these interrupted messages can transform your understanding of both your sleeping and waking life. Nocturnal traumas. How the past wakes you up. Your body keeps the score of every painful experience you've ever had, and 3 in the morning is when these old wounds demand attention. Trauma doesn't follow your schedule or respect your need for sleep. It surfaces when your defenses are down, using the quiet darkness to finally speak about experiences you've spent years trying to forget. Jung understood that trauma lives in the unconscious long after your conscious mind believes it has moved on. You might think you've processed a difficult childhood, healed from a painful relationship, or overcome a frightening experience. But at 3 a.m., your body tells a different story. The trembling hands, racing heart, and sudden panic that wake you from sleep are your trauma's way of saying it still needs your attention. The past doesn't stay in the past when it comes to unhealed trauma. Every suppressed memory, every emotion you couldn't safely feel at the time, every part of yourself you had to shut down to survive, all of this material remains active in your unconscious. 3 a.m. becomes the hour when these experiences surface, demanding the processing and integration they never received. Your nervous system operates on its own timeline when it comes to trauma recovery. You might be having a perfectly good week, feeling strong and capable during the day, only to wake at 3, feeling like you're right back in the middle of your worst experiences. This isn't a sign that you're not healing. It's a sign that your body is ready to release trauma it couldn't process before. Childhood experiences often surface during 3 a.m. awakenings because your adult mind is finally strong enough to handle what overwhelmed you as a child. Your unconscious has been protecting you from these memories until you develop the emotional resources to process them safely. When you wake feeling small, scared, or helpless, your inner child is often trying to share experiences it couldn't tell anyone about at the time. The body holds trauma in ways that bypass your conscious understanding. You might wake with mysterious aches, feel nauseous for no apparent reason, or experience physical sensations that don't match your current reality. These somatic experiences are your body's attempt to release energy that got trapped during traumatic events. Your unconscious uses the stillness of 3 a.m. to begin this release process. Generational trauma also surfaces during early morning hours. The wounds carried by your parents, grandparents, and ancestors don't disappear with their deaths. They live on in your unconscious, influencing your behavior and emotional responses in ways you might not recognize. 3 a.m. awakenings sometimes bring awareness of these inherited patterns, giving you the opportunity to heal not just your own trauma, but the trauma of your lineage. Your trauma often speaks in symbols and metaphors during 3 a.m. experiences. You might wake from dreams about being chased, trapped, or unable to speak. These aren't literal memories, but your unconscious mind's way of representing traumatic experiences through imagery your current self can understand. Learning to decode these symbols helps you understand what your trauma is trying to communicate. The isolation you feel during nocturnal trauma episodes reflects the original experience of being alone with pain that felt too big to handle. Trauma often happens in isolation, or creates isolation even when others are present. 3 a.m. awakenings recreate this sense of being alone with overwhelming feelings, but now you have the opportunity to respond differently than you could as a child or in the original traumatic situation. Your unconscious brings trauma to the surface when it senses you're ready to heal, not when it wants to torture you. The timing of 3 a.m. trauma emergence often coincides with periods in your life when you have more stability, support, or inner resources than you had before. Your psyche waits for moments when healing becomes possible, rather than just re-traumatizing. The trauma that surfaces at 3 a.m. often connects to current life situations in ways that aren't immediately obvious. Maybe you're facing a decision that reminds your unconscious of times when you felt powerless, or you're in a relationship that echoes dynamics from your past. Your trauma emerges to help you recognize these patterns and make different choices. Jung emphasized that trauma integration requires conscious participation. Simply having traumatic material surface during 3 a.m. awakenings isn't enough. You need to develop the capacity to stay present with these experiences without being overwhelmed by them. This often involves learning to comfort yourself in ways you never received as a child or during the original traumatic experience. The healing of nocturnal trauma happens gradually, in layers. You might work through one aspect of a traumatic experience only to have another layer surface weeks or months later. This isn't a sign of failure, it's how trauma healing naturally unfolds. Your unconscious reveals as much as you can handle at any given time, protecting you from being overwhelmed while still moving you toward wholeness. Your 3 a.m. trauma awakenings often decrease in intensity and frequency as you learn to welcome these experiences instead of fighting them. When your unconscious senses that you're willing to listen to your trauma's story, it doesn't need to wake you so dramatically. The healing happens more gently when you become an ally to your own recovery process. The dark side you hide. 3 a.m. confrontations. Every person carries within them aspects of their personality they've learned to hide from the world and often from themselves. Jung called this the shadow, the collection of traits, desires, and impulses you've rejected because they don't fit with your image of who you should be. 3 in the morning is when your shadow steps out of hiding, demanding acknowledgement and integration. Your shadow contains everything you've been taught is unacceptable about yourself. Maybe you learned early that anger was dangerous, so you pushed all your aggressive impulses underground. Perhaps you were raised to always be helpful, so you buried your selfish desires. Or you might have been told that certain aspects of your sexuality, creativity, or ambition were inappropriate, leading you to disown these parts of yourself. The confrontation happens at 3 a.m. because your usual defenses are sleeping. During the day, you maintain careful control over which parts of yourself you allow to surface. You present the version of yourself that feels safe, acceptable, and likely to be approved of by others. But in the early morning darkness, this carefully constructed persona can't maintain its grip, and your shadow emerges. These confrontations often feel uncomfortable because you're meeting parts of yourself you've spent years avoiding. You might wake feeling inexplicably angry at someone you love, jealous of a friend's success, or filled with desires you've been taught to suppress. Your first instinct is often to push these feelings away, but Jung understood that integration requires acknowledgement, not denial. Your shadow isn't evil. It's simply the parts of your full human experience that you've learned to reject. It contains not only your potential for harm, but also your unrealized potential for growth, creativity, and authentic self-expression. Many people discover that their shadow holds gifts they never knew they possessed because they were too busy trying to be good to explore their full range of human possibility. The 3 a.m. confrontation often involves recognizing that you're capable of thoughts, feelings, and behaviors you've always attributed to other people. You might realize you're just as capable of selfishness as the people you criticize, or discover that you harbor prejudices you've always denied having. These realizations can be shocking, but they're essential for developing genuine self-awareness. Your shadow speaks through the emotions and thoughts that emerge during early morning hours. That sudden rage towards someone who's been kind to you, the envy you feel about others' successes, the cruel thoughts that seem to come from nowhere. These aren't signs that you're a bad person. They're signs that you have a complete human psyche that includes the full spectrum of human experience. Many 3 a.m. confrontations involve recognizing your own capacity for the behaviors you judge most harshly in others. Jung observed that what we dislike most intensely in other people often reflects disowned aspects of ourselves. When you wake at 3 feeling disturbed by someone's actions, your shadow might be showing you similar tendencies within yourself that you've refused to acknowledge. The dark side you hide often contains your unlived life, the path you didn't take, the dreams you gave up, the person you might have become if you hadn't been so concerned with being acceptable. 3 a.m. confrontations sometimes bring grief for these unlived possibilities, along with anger at the circumstances or people who convinced you to abandon parts of yourself. Your shadow also holds your authentic power, which you might have learned to suppress because it made others uncomfortable. Maybe you dimmed your intelligence to avoid threatening others, suppressed your leadership abilities to maintain harmony, or hid your creative talents to avoid standing out. 3 a.m. confrontations can reveal how much of your true self you've sacrificed for acceptance. The confrontation process isn't about acting on every shadow impulse that surfaces. Jung emphasized that integration means acknowledging these aspects of yourself without being controlled by them. You can recognize your capacity for anger without becoming violent, accept your selfish impulses without becoming cruel, or embrace your power without becoming dominating. Many people experience relief after acknowledging their shadow aspects during 3 a.m. confrontations. The energy it takes to constantly suppress parts of yourself is exhausting, and integration frees up psychological resources you can use for more creative and fulfilling pursuits. When you stop fighting your shadow, you can begin working with it as an ally rather than treating it as an enemy. Your shadow confrontations often intensify during periods of stress or major life changes. When you're under pressure, it becomes harder to maintain your usual psychological defenses, making shadow material more likely to surface. These can be particularly valuable times for shadow work because your psyche is naturally more open to transformation. The goal of 3 a.m. shadow confrontations isn't to eliminate your dark side, but to develop a conscious relationship with it. When you know your shadow and accept it as part of your complete humanity, you become less likely to project these qualities onto others and more capable of making authentic choices about how to express your full range of human potential. Healing rituals. What to do when you wake at 3 a.m. When you find yourself awake at 3 in the morning, you're being offered a sacred opportunity for deep healing work. Instead of lying there frustrated about lost sleep or trying to force yourself back into unconsciousness, you can use this time for powerful rituals that honor what your psyche is trying to communicate. The first and most important ritual is simply staying present with whatever emerges. Don't immediately reach for your phone, turn on lights, or distract yourself with activities. Sit quietly in the darkness and allow yourself to feel whatever emotions are surfacing. Your unconscious has woken you for a reason, and the first step in healing is acknowledging what it's trying to show you. Create a simple breathing ritual to ground yourself in the present moment. Breathe slowly and deeply, counting each exhale from 1 to 10, then starting over. This helps calm your nervous system while keeping you open to whatever insights want to emerge. Your breath becomes a bridge between your conscious awareness and your unconscious wisdom. Keep a journal beside your bed specifically for 3 a.m. experiences. Write down whatever thoughts, feelings, or memories surface, even if they seem random or disconnected. Don't worry about making sense of everything immediately. Your unconscious often communicates in fragments that become clear over time. The act of writing honors your inner experience and helps integrate unconscious material into conscious awareness. Practice the ritual of gentle self-dialogue. Speak to yourself the way you would comfort a frightened child or beloved friend. Ask yourself what you need in this moment, what your psyche is trying to tell you, or what old wound might be surfacing for healing. This internal conversation helps bridge the gap between your conscious and unconscious minds. If specific memories or emotions arise, create a ritual of acknowledgement. You might place your hand on your heart and say something like, "I see you, I hear you, I'm here with you now." This simple gesture tells your unconscious that you're ready to receive its communications rather than pushing them away. When trauma surfaces, practice the ritual of grounding yourself in present moment safety. Feel your feet on the floor. Notice 5 things you can see in the darkness. Remind yourself of your current age and location. This helps distinguish between past experiences your psyche is processing and your current reality. Create a closing ritual when you're ready to return to sleep. Thank your unconscious for the communication, acknowledge any insights you've received, and set an intention to remember and integrate whatever healing work happened during your awakening. This creates a sense of completion and cooperation between your conscious and unconscious minds. The most powerful ritual is developing genuine curiosity about these experiences rather than viewing them as inconveniences. When you approach 3 a.m. awakenings with openness and respect for your inner wisdom, they transform from sleep disruptions into opportunities for profound self-discovery and healing. Your psyche responds to this shift in attitude by communicating more clearly and gently over time.